Having traveled to a planet in the deep core of the galaxy at the behest of Qui-Gon, which was a wellspring of life and the light side of the Force, to learn the secret to manifesting his consciousness as a Force ghost, Yoda initiated his trials, administered by the Force Priestesses. Before he could begin his journey to becoming a Force ghost after death, Yoda had to learn to free himself and overcome the evil that manifested itself as fear. To do so, Yoda's first trial from the Force Priestesses was to travel to an island and confront his fears. Little did Yoda know that what waited for him was his inner dark side. In this video expose, I will explain what Yoda learned about the Force from his confrontation with his own internal dark side, and the importance it has regarding what we may see in the subsequent films of the sequel trilogy. Before Yoda's confrontation with the dark side that remained hidden within him, the Jedi Master was certain that through his Jedi training, he had completely mastered his weaknesses, chief among them, the conquering of his fears. However, the Force Priestess Serenity was not so sure, and told Yoda that he must confront his evil upon the island and defeat it. Emboldened, Yoda traveled to the island, prepared to face what waited for him. Having entered, Yoda was soon confronted by a dark, shadowy version of himself, with glowing red eyes, who taunted Yoda for having deemed him unworthy. Initially, Yoda tried to suggest that he didn't recognize the figure, but his inner dark side inquired comically, "See not what is inside Yoda?" At this point, as the two entities started engaging each other in hand-to-hand combat after a brief initial exchange, Yoda still remained unconvinced that the figure before him was part of him, as through his Jedi training, he had chosen a path wherein he did not give power to his fears, and therefore, there could be no manifested dark side within him. This was enough to earn Yoda the upper hand against his dark side early in the battle. However, the tide of the battle quickly turned when Yoda remained defiant that he had any remaining evil that was a part of him. He refused to believe that the figure he was facing was growing inside of him as the Clone Wars raged on. Upon his continued denials, importantly, Yoda's dark side declared that not only was he part of Yoda, but he was part of all that lives, and questioned why the Jedi Master would hate what gives him power and think him unworthy. As the dark side gained the upper hand and looked to win the battle by approaching to deliver a final blow, remarkably, Yoda came to realize the reality of the situation, and stated that not only did he recognize the dark figure, but accepted that he was a part of him. Although Yoda understood that a small amount of dark side remained hidden within him, despite his mastery of Jedi teachings, he also understood that he could control it and make the choice to not let it have power over him. In fact, he could use his training to control the dark side. This is what Yoda did to win the battle against his inner dark side and successfully complete his first trial, as he used the control he had over it to reject it completely. This was an amazing new understanding of the Force for Yoda, as in confronting his dark side, he learned that despite all he had accomplished during his years within the Jedi Order, the dark side continued to linger within him. The Jedi were no different than any other living being. The dark side was a part of them, whether they acknowledged it or not. This was a startling conception for Yoda, as he told Serenity that he was shocked by how powerful the figure representing his inner dark side was. As explained by Serenity, the figure represented Yoda's, and really every Jedi's, hubris in the shadow of his soul. When Yoda confessed that he thought he'd banished the dark side within him forever, Serenity explained to him a crucially important component of the light and dark sides of the Force, stating, "The beast is you, and you are the beast. To deny it simply gives it power." Therefore, through his confrontation with his inner dark side, Yoda learned that the dark side was a part of every living being, including the Jedi. More importantly, it was the denial of this truth, which the Jedi Order did engage in, that empowered it. It wasn't through the complete rejection of the dark side that would defeat it, but recognizing its existence, and then having the strength to reject it. This was an amazingly important change in Yoda's conception of the Force, and stood in stark contradiction to the tenets of Jedi philosophy. But even after his successful completion of this trial, put forth by the Force Priestesses, Yoda, as well as Obi-Wan for that matter, still did not fully grasp how these mechanisms worked. As we saw in the recent Season 3 Rebels episode, Twin Suns, in Yoda and Obi-Wan's belief that Luke was the Chosen One, as well as in Yoda's last words to Luke in Return of the Jedi, wherein Yoda thought that Luke must confront and kill Darth Vader. Although Yoda understood that the dark side was a part of all beings, he believed that if someone chose to give up their control over the dark side and journey down its path, it would forever dominate their destiny, and there would be no coming back from it. This was Yoda's view of Anakin Skywalker, believing that Anakin could never be redeemed back into the light, therefore requiring Luke to confront and kill Vader. Of course, Yoda was incorrect, as despite Anakin's path down the dark side, he was redeemed by Luke. There seems to have been a profoundly false assumption made by Yoda, despite what he learned from the Force Priestesses in his first trial, which was, even though a full commitment to the light could never extinguish the dark, he believed that a full commitment to the dark could extinguish the light. He should have known that the opposite was true, as just because an individual thought they had driven the light from them completely, there would still be a reflection of it in the shadow of their soul, which was the reality for Anakin. I believe that these conceptions of the Force that Yoda learned by confronting his inner dark side will play a significant role in what is to come in episodes 8 and 9, particularly two aspects. First, the dark side is part of everyone, whether they acknowledge it or not. In fact, not acknowledging it only gives it more power. And second, just because someone uses or embraces elements of the dark side doesn't mean that it will forever dominate their destiny, nor does it cause an extinguishing of the light. Rather, through patience and training, an individual can obtain control over the dark side, not merely to reject its power, but to use it in some ways to do good. I would love to see Luke, perhaps even under the guidance of Yoda, come to understand these concepts, and come to reject the hubris and errors of the Jedi Order's philosophy, wherein he starts to embrace some elements of the dark side, thereby making him the last Jedi. So there we have it, what Yoda's inner dark side taught him about the Force. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions? Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me, for good days and bad days.